Foxborough faithful, lock in because there are major signals coming out of New England from every direction right now. Mike Vrabel was spotted taking a close look at a tackle who could be the future of this offensive line. There is talk about a very intriguing weapon for the offense. The market could still have one massive move waiting for the Patriots, and at the same time there is real pressure on a high-paid player who has to answer in 2026. When you put all of that together, one thing starts to jump off the page. New England may be putting together a much clearer plan than people want to admit. So hit subscribe and drop a comment right now. Which one of these stories has you the most fired up? One of the most interesting developments right now is what Mike Vrabel did at Arizona State's Pro Day. And there is one detail here that changes the weight of this story completely. This was not just a coach showing up for appearances at a pre-draft event. Vrabel was working closely with Max Iheanacho, a right tackle many people already see as a possible target late in the first round. And when the Patriots head coach gets that hands-on with a prospect, the alarms go off in Foxborough. The facts are simple. The Patriots have a real need on the offensive line, not just for the present, but for the future too. Morgan Moses is expected to open the season as the starter, but the succession question is obvious. You cannot wait until the roof is caving in before you make a move, especially when you are trying to protect a young quarterback as valuable as Drake Maye. If the franchise truly believes it found a tackle who can take over that job in 2027, or maybe even earlier, then it makes perfect sense to start that process now. And this is where a lot of people get the read completely wrong. Some fans look at an offensive line pick at the end of the first round and instantly call it boring. But honestly, you know what is boring? Watching your quarterback survive behind patchwork protection. You know what is boring? Going into another season living off temporary fixes. If Vrabel sees Iheanacho as a Patriots-type player, with the size, technique, and upside to lock down the right side for years, then that is not a conservative move. That is a smart move. That is long-term vision. That is Patriot way football. Now, we also have to separate fact from projection. The fact is Vrabel was there and visibly involved with the player. The projection is assuming that means the pick is locked in. It does not. But it absolutely signals interest, and interest that feels stronger than usual, especially because this tackle class is seen as deep in numbers, but not necessarily deep in quality once the top names come off the board. If the Patriots believe there is a real cliff after the first-round group, then moving up a few spots or using pick 31 on that guy becomes a lot more logical. And there is another part of this that should excite Patriots fans. It would show a franchise thinking 2 moves ahead, not just plugging a hole, but building the structure of the offense so Drake Maye can actually grow in something stable. And if there is one thing New England has to prove right now, it is exactly that. Organization, direction, and the ability to anticipate the next move before everybody else sees it coming. Another issue that may not be getting enough attention is the Patriots' tight end room. Hunter Henry is still a reliable name, a veteran, a guy who understands the offense and gives you stability. Julian Hill is an interesting addition, but the common read on him is that he is more of a blocker and a structural piece than a real receiving threat. And if that read is correct, then yes, this offense is still missing a tight end who can make noise in the passing game. That is why the rumor involving Cole Kmet deserves real attention, even if there is no guarantee he actually becomes available. What is being floated is the possibility that Chicago could be forced into some difficult cap decisions after spending heavily and reshaping the roster. In that kind of scenario, if the Bears cannot restructure things or find a trade partner, then a more drastic move could hit the table. And if that door opens, the Patriots should absolutely be watching it like hawks. Now here is the real question. Why does that fit make sense for New England? Because Kmet would be exactly the kind of piece that could raise the ceiling of this group. He brings more of a receiving profile, he has already shown he can be dependable, and he is still at a very appealing age. He would not just be another body in the room, he would be a player who could split responsibilities right away and, depending on how things unfold, potentially take on an even bigger role down the road. And yes, people will immediately say the Patriots have bigger needs. That is true. Offensive line is still a priority, pass rush is still a priority, but that is exactly why opportunities like this matter. When a proven player could become available because another team is squeezed financially, you do not ignore it. You do not force a need in the draft if you might be able to solve part of that problem with a more established option. At the same time, you have to keep both feet on the ground. The fact is, Kmet is being mentioned as a possible cap casualty. What is not a fact is saying it is definitely going to happen or that New England is already making calls. Not yet. But the analysis holds up because the fit makes sense, the need is real, and the timing of the market could open an unexpected lane. And honestly, this is exactly the kind of move that separates reactive teams from sharp teams. If the Patriots are really trying to build a more functional offense around Drake Maye, Adding a tight end with real impact in the passing game would be a very coherent next step. Now let's get into the one that really turns the temperature up in Foxborough. The latest rumor connects the Patriots to a possible trade for A.J. Brown. And just hearing a name like that tied to New England changes the whole mood around this team. We are talking about a game-changing wide receiver, the kind of player who bends coverages, warps defensive game plans, and adds an entirely different dimension to an offense. So when that name starts circling around the Patriots, this is not just random smoke with no firepower behind it. And the truth is, the connection makes sense. Drake Maye needs more talent around him. This offense needs a true alpha, a physical, dependable, explosive target who can make big plays when the lights are hottest. If the franchise wants to speed up the quarterback's development and raise the level of the entire offense in one swing, going after a receiver like that is completely logical. The issue is not the idea. The issue is the price tag attached to the idea. That is where I think a lot of projections get way too casual. Talking about a trade built mostly around pick 31 feels light for a player of that caliber. On paper, yes, it is still a first-round pick. But everybody knows a selection at the end of the round carries a very different kind of market value. Especially when the other team would be giving up a proven star, still in his prime, with elite production already on the board. If something like this ever moved from rumor to reality, the most likely scenario would involve extra compensation getting pulled into the deal. Even so, I am going to say something that might split the fan base. I completely understand why the Patriots would study this kind of move. At some point, rebuilding takes more than patience. At some point, it takes nerve. You do not develop a promising quarterback on patience and speeches alone. Eventually, you have to put heavyweight talent around him and stop asking him to carry the piano up the stairs by himself. So to me, the real debate is not whether a player like that would elevate the offense. Of course he would. The real debate is this: how far would New England be willing to go to make that kind of leap? There is also a very important conversation happening inside the current roster, and the name in the middle of it is Christian Barmore. The criticism coming out is that he is one of the most overpaid players on the Patriots right now, and obviously that is going to grab attention. When a player gets a significant contract and then does not perform at the expected level, the noise is coming. That is the NFL. But to me, this is the kind of situation that needs a little more patience and a lot less overreaction. The reality is Barmore has to answer in 2026. There is no way around that. Expectations are high because the Patriots need impact on the interior defensive line. They need strength against the run, they need physical presence, they need interior pressure, and they need consistency snap after snap. When you look at the defense as a whole, it is obvious that a strong version of Barmore changes the ceiling of the entire unit. That is why the pressure is there, and honestly, it should be there. Where I think people go too far is turning one rough season into a final verdict. Yes, his recent play fell short of expectations. Yes, the numbers and grades fuel that criticism, but we are still talking about a player with real talent, a player who can absolutely be an important piece when he is healthy, confident, and playing at his best. The Patriots did not stay financially committed to him out of charity, and they did not do it out of stubbornness either. They did it because they still believe the best version of Christian Barmore can show up and swing games. And you know what? I actually like this kind of pressure right now, because it puts everything on the table. There is no more room for the middle ground. Barmore goes into 2026 with the perfect chance to flip the entire narrative. If he starts collapsing pockets, winning snaps, and bringing real stability to the front again, then the contract conversation changes fast. In the NFL, perception changes in a heartbeat when production shows up. So to me, this is not about giving up on Christian Barmore. It is about recognizing that the time for an answer has arrived. The talent is still there. The team's belief in him seems to still be there too. Now it has to become real performance on Sundays. And if that happens, the Patriots defense could suddenly gain a difference maker at the exact moment when a lot of people outside the building already gave up way too early. When I look at all of this together, the feeling is pretty clear. The Patriots are not just reacting to the market, they may be building a direction. Whether it is watching a tackle who could protect Drake Maye's future, tracking an intriguing offensive option, weighing the possibility of a blockbuster move for a true star, or demanding a response from important players already on the roster, the message feels the same. New England is trying to build a tougher, smarter, more functional football team that is actually ready to compete. So now I want to hear from you. Which one of these moves would make the biggest difference for the Patriots in 2026? Drop your take, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep tracking every signal coming out of Foxborough together.